Yeah. So, yeah.
Are we ready to start the interview, Maya? Did you have any more business you wanted to take care of?
No, just welcome in everyone. Grab your popcorn. Let's watch it. And then when we're done with the interview, we're going to get on with our 10 first track. Lots of giveaways, lots of competitions, lots of crowns to be won. So let's go.
Enjoy the interview, guys. And she does say at some point in the interview that she goes on the forums to see what people are up to. So if you ever get an opportunity to pass on your love and respect for all the work that Becky has done, we'll revisit this idea at the end of the interview. Please do so. And that goes for any of the developers, really. They love hearing it. They never seem to get tired of hearing it. So yeah, sit back and enjoy. And thanks again to Becky for being so generous with her time. Do you want to check levels, Maya? And just give me a thumbs up when we start. Enjoy.
Okay, so we are delighted to be joined by Becky Ichnoski, voice-over lead at ZeniMax Online Studios. Hello.
Hi.
Whom we have to thank for... welcome. And we're so grateful for all the fantastic voiceovers found all over ESO. And you're going to talk to us about how they're created, the collaboration between writers, designers, actors, and directors, which makes this crucial part of storytelling possible.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love talking about what I do, so I'm so happy to be here.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Well, let's get right in. So you've been with ZOS since before ESO launched, is that right?
Yeah, since 2012, which I also recently calculated has been like almost 1/3 of my life. So I'm kind of like outing my age a little bit, but yeah, it's been a long time.
Well, everyone we've spoken to, they are receiving their, 15, 20-year glass, what is it, like work medals, how long they've been working for the company.
Yeah, the longest service medal, yeah.
That's the one, thank you. And I think that's a wonderful testament to the company, because people want to actually stay around and keep working on this game and keep collaborating with each other. So I think that's a good sign, right?
Definitely. It really is a really good place to work. Like you said, we have a wonderful company culture. Yeah, I don't think I've ever worked at a place where people have stuck around so long. So we all love what we do.
And it does come through. So yeah.
Right.
So would you mind telling us about how you got involved with ESO and what you were working on before?
Yeah. Before ESO, I was working at a studio called I was working at a studio called Big Huge Games, and we released the game Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. Right after that release, our studio unfortunately shut down. But I remember right before that hearing about ZOS announcing Elder Scrolls Online, which was really exciting. So I got very lucky, and just a few weeks after my old studio shut down, I got hired here, and I have been here ever since.
Wow.
Yes. I have a bit of a background in just like an audio-centric background. I went to school for music composition, so I've always kind of gravitated toward the sound aspect of game development.
Love that. So you have experience across most of the process going from script to voice. So these days, could you explain sort of where a typical player can go and find your work and influence in ESO?
Yeah, obviously, like anywhere there's voiceover in the game, me and my team have been a part of that. Just to bring up a more recent and specific example, I worked on the scribing quest line kind of recently. That's just a piece of content that I'm particularly proud of. There was a big collaboration between me and Michael Zenke, our lore master. It was very challenging, but very rewarding. I felt like we had a lot more creative freedom with this quest line because of the nature of those characters. Yeah, it was a huge undertaking, but I'm really happy with how that turned out.
The creative freedom really does come through. I think we talked to Zenki about this just yesterday, actually. Although, because this is a pre-recorded interview, it'll be a few days later for the viewers. But yeah, we talked about this very aspect and how much fun it was and how it hits different with the soundtrack, the characters, and the nature of the voiceover. And we also talked to Wes Johnson about it. Myra, you have a story about this?
Yeah, it's something that comes up a lot, actually. Because I had the opportunity of talking to Wes a few times since Gold Road dropped, and one of the things that I always ask, what's your favorite character? And he gets asked that all the time, and he usually says his thing of, well, I love all of them because they are part of me and all that, which is beautiful. But he always alludes to Johannes Verlaine as being something very special because it meant something to him, and he did say to me, I would love to know what the writers think of my voiceover. I really hope that they like it because obviously they wrote something that mattered to them. And actually on Monday, because he'd never seen it in game, we played it with him on stream. And his face, he was just so touched by that. And so that obviously is something that comes up. A lot of people mention it, a lot of players as a quest that meant so much to them. And considering it's so small, it's just a little niche quest. It's a really important one. So it's funny that keeps cropping up.
Yeah, that's so cool. I had no idea that character left such an impression on him. But that's really cool to hear. I love hearing like that kind of feedback from players I particularly really loved that niche quest. It was really special. Yeah, just the whole scribing quest and the way everything came together. There's just so many little details that are small, but, just have a lasting impact, at least on me and Wes. So that's really cool to hear.
Yeah, it's definitely not just you or just Wes. Before we even clocked that he was the voice, because it's a little bit different from his sort of signature Elder Scrolls thing. Although obviously he's a chameleonic master of that, so we shouldn't be surprised. We didn't even clock immediately that it was him. But one of our friends, we were moved by it. Lots of people were. They sort of talked about, wait till you do this one. Ooh, that's a gut punch. One of our friends had to take a little break because it was very moving. And there's something really beautiful about that in storytelling where you get a very real feeling experience from a movie or a TV show or a game. And that comes from a really heartfelt performance by a voice actor, which then comes from a real heartfelt piece of writing from a writer, and obviously, going through a producer and script supervision and whatever steps in the process there are, and then back from a real life experience, ultimately writing from, lived experience, which is what writers try to do. We were talking to Zenki about this and how in a fantasy setting that's not always easy, but that's what you draw upon. Yeah. And it's amazing when you get that feedback loop complete and you can see the whole thing, because I'm guessing that's something you don't get to witness that often unless a player has the chance to come up to you and say, by the way, I loved this.
Well, I do be lurking on our forums. And I think a lot of our players know or tag me when they have a question about stuff. So I won't lie, I love to go and look at the feedback after we release something just to see how players react to it, because I'm always curious.
Yeah, that's good to know that actually happens. I want to ask about casting. ESO, and any MMO really, can't lean on things like super advanced facial animation, the latest graphics, or performance capture, which are some of the technologies that really make characters pop in a cinematic way in games. An MMO like ESO is very dependent on the voice to do the heavy lifting, and most of the characters in ESO are quite larger than life. So I just wanted to ask how you go about casting for that. And to give you a couple of examples, maybe you want to touch on Arabelle DeVoe from High Isle, for example, who may seem low-key, but then when you think about it, she's a courtly noble who's also a master spy and has done all this crazy stuff. Or Torvasad from the Necrom expansion, who's basically a demon Ronin. Where do you start when you're trying to find an actor who has that gear?
Yeah, well, we start by leaning heavily on our writers. For, big roles like that, we put out casting calls, we send out auditions. So when we do that, we provide a lot of backstory about the character. We provide art. And yeah, we work with a lot of agencies, and we get submissions, and it's just a collaborative effort when it comes to just picking the right voice. Yeah, in the case of Lady Arabelle, it was Tasia Valenza, who we've actually worked with before, but I don't know, her voice was just so right for it. And she was very passionate about the character, which I feel like that really shows. Like, I don't know, she just is Lady Arabelle. So yeah, I hope that that answers your question.
It does. How to what extent are you responsible for thinking, oh, I know this person, this person, this, but I can think of these folks in the biz who I think they could nail that particular vibe that we're going for?
Like sometimes, and I don't want to give myself any of the credit, but when a writer is writing and they already have a voice in mind, that's when like it really works. I'll try to provide a couple of examples of that, but the companion Sharp as Night, that was Julie Comstock, and as she was writing the character, she had Brandon Keener in mind to play the role. So that we reached out to him, asked if he'd be interested, asked if he'd be willing to submit his take on the character. And when we all heard it, there was just no doubt that he was perfect for the role. Let me think of another example of that. Okay, in Elsewhere, there was a young Redguard character. I don't want to botch the name. I think it was Alia Remnis. Does that ring a bell to you guys?
Yes.
It was so long ago. But our writer, Tori, she wrote that character with Olivia Olson in mind. I think she's from Adventure Time. And that was another one that like just felt so organic once we heard from her and brought her into the studio. So I love when writers have those kind of suggestions, which isn't often. So any writers who are tuning into this, please give me your give me your ideas. I always feel like people are afraid like to suggest things, or don't want to cross the line, but
don't want to be presumptive. Okay.
Yeah. I love getting feedback and recommendations. So yeah,
that must be incredibly helpful to know that the chemistry, if that's the right word, is locked in before you even finish writing it. That's got to be incredible. And clearly Zos has a Rolodex. I know we don't literally use those anymore, or at least I don't, but you clearly have a Rolodex of actors now who've worked on ESO before, and it's great for the players to hear these familiar, beloved voices again, even when they're different characters. And I have a very specific example in mind. We have huge affection for David Shaughnessy, Sir Didymus from Labyrinth. He'll always be that to me. Who voiced High Kinlord Release in the Banished Cells, and a bunch of male elves in the base game. Absolutely wonderful, iconic voice. And you brought him back a couple of years ago for my turn with the name Kovan Girion in Balsanar, the crazy time wizard, who's the first boss in that dungeon.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's such a great villain, isn't he?
He really is, and the character is.
He really is.
But way too good at that. The character is not nice at all. He's kind of horrible, and it's not a pleasant fight.
Just like the actor. No, totally kidding.
Well,
David is.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah,
he is the sweetest. He is just the sweetest, and yeah, such a professional. My personal favorite from David is the astronomer in Clockwork City. I love that character.
yeah. And,
He could kind of voice pretty much anything, and I think it's just going to be awesome because it's
Yes, exactly.
yeah. Again, a real chameleon, and just such a rich delivery, just a master. But the cast is stacked with legends, really, isn't it? Are there any other highlights among them from your experience, or any funny stories you could tell us about?
They're just like so many. It's so hard. I mean, I have some personal highlights. Like working with Billy Boyd was amazing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's Brayden and the Reach, but then also the Tales of Tribute main character, Bragus. Yeah, sorry. This is really challenging my memory. But oh my gosh, he's exactly who you think, how you think he would be. Just so full of life and so sweet. Who else? Ben Diskin is another just phenomenal actor that can also be a chameleon. He's Zaji. And he just has such wonderful, like, I think he's a cold reader, and just every first take he does, his comedic improv is just so, it always works. It's so instinctual. I mean, with Zaji, like, we get through his script, I think, faster than any other actor with any other script, because it's just like a bunch of one-liners, and the first take is always just like, okay, yep, next.
Wow, one take disco.
There's like, I love everybody. I hate like picking out like favorites, because like everybody's my favorite. Like Laura Bailey is another one who did Izzy, the companion. Just so warm and professional. I could like go on and on for days.
It's not about picking favorites, but just giving the players this little privileged glimpse that we don't normally have. So anything at all is much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah. Something that just popped in my head. Stefan Bernard, who is Roger Craig Smith, like the emotion he gave into his performance, especially with, that really tragic scene, like that just blew me away. There are just, so Alfred Molina, how could I not mention him? Such a gentleman, like such a kind, sophisticated man. He was so great to work with. I could just go on and on.
Yeah, your job is rapidly sounding like the best in the world to everyone listening to this. And how about finding new actors? You said you put out casting calls. Do you ever have anyone that you have in mind? Or perhaps is there someone in the future you're thinking, I would love to find any excuse to work with that person?
Pedro Pascal.
Okay. That was quick. You thought about this.
May or may not have a crush on him like every other woman in the world. No, that was just the first thing that popped into my head. I don't know if I'm being serious right now, but I mean, nothing really specific comes to mind. I guess I just take it on a case-by-case basis as a new character pops up.
Yeah.
You know
makes
what I mean?
sense.
Yeah.
And then a different question. Is there a role you can think of which was particularly difficult to cast for whatever reason?
Yes, and it kind of ties into what we were already talking about, but I like to pick recent examples because these days I have a memory of a goldfish, but the netch was particularly challenging. Zenki and I were just so worried. I mean, the netch is just such a buoyant character, and when we got auditions back for the netch, they were all over the place. And we landed on Isaac Robinson Smith. Not immediately. We just had to listen over and over, and we were just so unsure. And we were just nervous how the dialogue would be perceived by players. And I just remember in the studio, we just kept going back and revising the voice. Like, we were worried it would be too annoying. But I'm really happy with how it turns out, and I would love to hear what other people think. But yeah, that one was particularly challenging.
Yeah, funnily enough, we talked to with Wes Johnson, and we were streaming at the time, so we did talk about this just the other day, because he had never heard the quest done in game, so he was blown away by the actor portraying Johannes Verlaine's son. Was it? I'm going to get that wrong. Elik. But that he was expecting to be moved by his own performance and the memories of that, and then he heard the son who's preparing to grieve, but not quite there yet, and sort of desperate. And yeah, you should have seen his face. My goodness, it really hit hard. And then when the netch is peppering in these disembodied voiceovers in the middle of the action, it's almost like a comic relief which punctures the tension. And we were commenting on how well that works, because it is whimsical, but it isn't completely incongruent, you know? And
yeah,
I think he made a point about that being a difficult balance for you guys and Isaac to make.
Yes. Yeah, we were a little worried. But once all the elements came together and the content was in its final form, and at least when I got a chance to play through it, after, the post-processing was added to the voice and everything else came together, I was happy with it.
I have to sort of 100% agree with that. It's kind of boring, but I just thought it was really fun how you have this really beautiful story, but then there's this netch who's sort of silly, but also the way the netch is sort of described by Johannes Verlaine, as saving his life, and there is just this, it's just this weird juxtaposition, but it just works. But I can imagine it would have been hard.
Yeah, that makes me happy to hear.
All right, so once you've got your actor, how do you help them prep and supervise the performance?
It's funny, so we work with a lot of outsourced directors and people in the studio, and one thing my team always gets a comment about is just how prepared we are and how much it shows that we care, and we basically over prepare. So we do make sure they get their materials well in advance of the session. And that's not only the script with an overload of, direction, art. Like I said, we do provide backstory. We give them everything they need in case they want to practice and prepare ahead. And then we also do the same thing for our directors. We just make sure they have everything they need, all the ingredients to make the spaghetti. And yeah, once we all come together, there's always, myself or another member from my team, a writer is usually present. We have the director, we have the engineers, and we have the actor, and we all just kind of have a little think about, all right, what are we doing here? And yeah, it's usually a smooth process.
It's got to be challenging, though, to get everyone, when so many people are involved. It's like a mini movie production here. It involves like 100 hands on deck, and that everyone has to be on the same page when it comes to the content, the vibe, understanding all of these concepts all at once. That's actually pretty admirable. It's something that even I, who like to think about voiceovers in video games, I'm not really thinking about that when I'm just hearing it and experiencing that.
Yeah,
obviously.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Maya.
No, you go. You go.
I was just going to say, like, another advantage we have now is we've also just been doing it for so long. I mean,
sure,
we do this 4 times a year for the past, I can't do math, like 13 years. So we definitely just have a flow, and that is the best part, is just like all working together and, just making our vision happen.
Obviously, having people that know each other working together as well is got to be helpful. Yeah, this is obviously nothing compared to what you're talking about, but Wes invited me to do a little radio play on Sunday to support Voiceover, and there were some incredible names there. I just had a couple of lines, but it was the best thing ever. But just seeing them, there was no prep. Half the time, they're like, hang on, who am I reading? There was a little bit of that, but even just that, because those people have known each other for years, there was just this synergy that I can imagine, the way you described how you guys work must be, 10 times that. And it shows, because the finished product is, we talk about this all the time. Everyone talks about the voice acting and the way that's done in this game, and combat and other things. But the voice acting, like it comes up over and over and over, and how that just brings the game alive.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. And yeah, Wes is such a wonderful human being. I did his Voiceover a couple years ago. Such a great cause. He's such a wonderful person. I'm glad you got to join in.
Yeah, he's a top chap, as we say.
He really is, yeah.
I've just got a random question, which I just thought of. We should have asked it at the beginning. So you were on board before the decision was made to fully voice ESO, is that correct?
Yeah, at that point, so I joined the studio as a QA person. I was on the QA team.
Yeah.
Which is really great, because I got to learn so much about the tools and every aspect of development. And I was only there for a few months before I was brought onto the VO team. But yeah, I think I joined right around the time that it was decided that there would be VO. So it was a bit of a challenge, because all the VO tools were a bit of an afterthought.
Sure.
And not originally planned for.
It's a huge decision to do that.
Yes.
The reason I'm asking, I'm just wondering if you could lift the lid a little bit on that. Was there one person in particular on the team who said, all right, we need to stop, we're doing this? Gamers like to pretend that there's this auteur, the Todd Howards, the Josh Sawyers, the Hideo Kojima, these, they decide everything. Of course, it's never like that. But in this case, was there someone who took the lead on championing, we got to fully voice this?
To be honest, I don't know that. I hear about it all the time, but that might have been a little bit like right before I was there. I'll have to ask Brad. He's probably the only other person that's been here long enough that might know that answer.
Ancient history.
Brad, our composer. Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Oh, it's no worries. It's just imagining ESO without it, and people still come to this game, and when they come to stream, say, oh, I've never played this game. Hang on, is this an MMO that's fully voiced, what? So it's just something that is still surprising. So it's just such a, it must have been a real, let's say, pain, but look where the game is, and it's just such a huge asset.
Yeah. Well, yes, blessings to whoever made that decision.
Absolutely. Tough call, but a great call.
Yeah. So I think it's easy for audiences to overlook the difference between voice acting and screen acting, especially if it's well done and disbelief is properly suspended. So could you just explain how video game voice acting differs from screen acting or even from other voiceover work?
Well, from what I hear from actors is that it can be a lot more challenging because you can't portray with your movement or, your body or your facial expressions. It all just has to come from the voice. So I could imagine if I was an actor that would be very challenging. I wish I could speak more to that, but I mean, I don't have the direct experience to be able to answer it.
But I can imagine what you're saying exactly, that we don't have anything, we can't even see the face. It's just the voice.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just still in awe of voice actors every day that they can do what they do. I mean, I've tried just to do like amateur temp recordings and stuff when we need those. And it's really hard. It's a lot more harder than it seems.
Oh, I can imagine.
I'm terrible.
So what about lines that are effectively combat cues? Especially when a line is used to telegraph an attack. Like ESO has a ton of those. And it's a weird mix of sort of dramatic performance and user interface almost. So how do you go about explaining to an actor what it is they need to convey?
I feel like this answer is going to be disappointing. But our biggest challenge as voiceover game devs is, at the end of the day, you're in a combat space, usually with other players. It's so noisy. There's sound effects from the abilities, from the player, from the boss, and like Brad's combat music goes hard. So the biggest thing that our biggest goal is to get the actors to just like shout and project enough that it's going to be heard above all that other stuff going on. Sometimes designers and writers will fall into the trap of they want the dialogue to just have so much meaning and they want to say a lot, but we're just like, no, we'll just keep it short.
Less is more.
Because it gets drowned out. Or, there ends up being timing issues. So yeah, mine is I just have such a mechanical answer to that, which is short and shouted.
But no, that's perfect. It didn't occur to me, but of course that makes sense. It didn't even occur to me that obviously, if you want to be heard, there's going to be a lot going on. So that's what you need to focus on. And I love that. That, a writer might be there going, oh, I just want this really beautiful line. Yeah, but it's not going to be heard.
Yeah, I mean, we do try to, like, sometimes I was going to try to describe something, but it's too complicated. I'm not even going to say it. So just ignore me.
Well, there are a ton of examples where it does feel like there's real drama in there. That's the gift. We were just in Lepsiclusa, one of the newest dungeons, with Ophelia from Bethesda UK, and she was loving the last boss, Orpheon the Tactician. And he's got he's a military character, and the voiceover is incredibly aggressive because his moves, his animations, he's a staff wielder. He doesn't come charging at you with a huge sword. But the voiceover really makes him seem aggressive. When he screams at you, give in. It's genuinely arresting. And another one is Zorin in Lucid Citadel, voiced by Paul Goyette, right? I've been tanking that trial a lot recently, so I'm biased, but I've really come to appreciate the malice in they're just a few words. And obviously Goyette's voice as well. But yeah, there's so much in those vocal cues that we hear hundreds of times, and somehow they just don't get old. And that sense of threat or comedy or drama or whatever it is, it stays there, evergreen somehow. And so while you say, oh, it's just more, bigger, louder, there's clearly more to it than that.
I definitely don't mean to downplay the passion and the acting of our talent. I mean, like, Paul just has the richest, most resonant voice. He's perfect for a lot of those types of characters.
How invested are you in seeing the finished characters when they finally appear in game? Because if you read interviews and listen to interviews with game developers, writers, animators, they often say, someone like Mike Finnegan, for example, will often say how thrilled they are when the VO is added to the stuff they've been working on for months. Does it go the other way as well? When you finally get to see the voiceover that you've been working with and this character that you've seen being created, and then it's realized in game, do you get that?
Oh, 1,000,000%. When we are working on like the early stages, like we haven't even started casting yet. We're just like, me and my team, we will actually play through the content like an end user as much as we can. But at that point in development, like, the world building's not complete. There's no animations. There's temp art. I mean, there's no music, no sound effects. So by the time we record and we implement all the VO files, and, you know, the sound team adds all the post-processing to them, like, it's definitely important to the VO team to not only just go in and see the end result for, you know, our own sakes, but of course we have to, you know, fix bugs and fix VO timing and make sure everything's playing. But yeah, it's a very humbling experience to see all of the disciplines like coming together and fulfilling a single vision. It's just very rewarding to see. It's always turns out so much better than I could ever have imagined. Plus, there's times where I feel insecure about what we did in the studio, by no fault of the actor ever, but I just second guess, like, are people going to like this? Like, I don't know. But once you see it and hear it in game with all those other elements added, it just works. Yeah, 99% of the time.
It's got to be amazing. I can only imagine. We see it a little bit in our own way with editing a video and a project which involves voiceover and so on. But something as complicated as a trial boss, or even just a bit of story that involves combat, seeing it all coalesce, like all the pieces were meant to fit together the way they do, that must be amazing to see 4 times a year as well. Wow.
Yeah, we're very busy.
But like you said, you've got good at it at this point. You've had plenty of experience over the years as a team.
Yeah, it's totally autopilot.
We're conducting a poll, a completely different question, with all the developers that we're interviewing as part of ESO 10 Fest, because this game has been going on a long time. Everyone has their own allegiances, perspectives. Who would be your choice, personally, to finally win the Three Banners War, the central conflict which ESO has been built around?
Pact.
Oh, Pact all the way.
Evan Hart.
So it's got nothing to do with the actors, Beckinsale, Bill Nye, or Peter Stormare. Oh,
I love all 3 of them. My experiences were with all three of those were amazing. I guess it's several reasons. Like, I love Argonians, my favorite race.
Okay, noted.
I also love Nords. Maybe my second favorite. Nords are cool. But yeah, Peter Stormare, I am just such a huge fan. I love his body of work. I mean, Fargo, Constantine.
The Big Lebowski.
Yeah, Dancer in the Dark.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's the salesman for the Cinco Boy from Tim and Eric. He's just, just working, being in the studio with him. He's just so unpredictable. He's so professional, but so, he's very eccentric. He makes such unexpected decisions. And, I feel like I have seen some mixed feedback about King Aaron's performance, like, over the years. It's a, I don't know, maybe a little off, but in the most, like, to me, like, really good way. Yeah, Evan Hart packed.
I always thought Yoren's voiceover was fantastic. And
Yeah,
I was predisposed to loving it.
Too.
But
Yeah.
Maybe it's because the character is seen so little relative to Emmerich and I almost said Kate Beckinsale and Irene, which they very much sit astride the stories in their in those zones, whereas Joran sort of does fade into the background a little bit more. Maybe that's part of it.
Maybe. I like that, though.
Yeah, I remember watching, there was like a little video made with the voice actors that was released when it was announced that it was going to be fully voiced and everything. And all of them were interviewed. And that was fabulous how some of them approached it very sort of, talking about the character in depth. Is it Michael Gambon who got a bit silly with the interview, which I just thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, he pretended to do it method. So he held his hand over his eyes because he was playing a blind man.
Yeah, yes. I wasn't there for that, but I remember seeing the footage.
And I'm a huge fan of Alfred Molina. I think he's just amazing. So to hear that, he was really great doing this as well. I mean, he sounds fantastic. People love that voiceover. And, but yeah, I'm definitely jealous because it just sounds like really hard work, but really rewarding because you get to see something really tough being created. From the very little experience I've had, and just to turn it into the stories that make people cry, and laugh, obviously as well.
Right.
But yeah, it's got to be quite rewarding. I can imagine.
Rewarding doesn't even begin to describe it, but that's a good word for it. Yeah, I'm very lucky that I get to do what I do and work with such amazing talent.
Well, thank you on behalf of the entire community for doing it so well, you and the team.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for being a fan of our work.
So, what is your favorite moment in ESO?
So my favorite update is Clockwork City. And probably my favorite in-game moment is when you get a chance to speak with Soth the Seal at the end of Clockwork City. That just really moved me. And I think I want to mainly blame that on the writer, Lehman Tuttle, but I don't know. I have never been more immersed in a dialogue before. And I feel like Matthew Sworn just really was the right voice for that. He just has so much unexpected vulnerability, and I don't know. His performance just really moved me when I went in and I finally got to see everything all together. I don't know. It was a vibe.
I think actually for a lot of people, Clockwork City is the number one storyline that they talk about. So
I love it. I love everything about Clockwork City.
I think it's my top. I love Rothgar as well, but Clockwork City was just different.
Yeah.
It was.
And, yeah.
Yeah. Rothgar, I love the Rothgar storyline.
Orcs are just fun.
They are.
Yeah, a lot of beefy voiceovers there as well. That's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So, and from a development standpoint, do you have any favorites, any funny anecdotes, any big wins, anything at all over the last 12, 13 years?
I can't remember anything. So if we're talking VO related, what was really funny? The Vigord the Sparrow quests where he sings that goofy song. Well, someone's going to know it, but I just remember it was at a very busy time, and Brad writes all our music, and it was like a day before the session. I'm like, Brad, do you have this song ready yet or not? Like, because we got to record it tomorrow. And he's like, yeah, it'll come. So I was like, you know what? I just went to a microphone and I just sang this stupid little ditty. I sent it to Brad. He listened for about a second. He's like, ship it. So we went in the studio with Gideon Emery, and you would have to hear the reference file I provided him. It's I have it. If you guys want it, I'll send it to you. But he listened to it and he was like, okay, let's do it. And then he gave so many versions of the most hilarious singing ever. I still have all the outtakes. I went to Jason Barnes. I was like, which one of these do you like the best? And we went with what was in game, but there are just so many hilarious outtakes. And I just remember that session being particularly fun and funny. And we were all just dying of laughter.
Oh, Kwama, sweet Kwama, don't you want to be a mama?
Oh, Kwama, sweet Kwama, don't you wanna be a mama? Oh, Kwama, sweet Kwama, don't you wanna be a mama?
I remember that quest.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, that's the egg mine in Gnosis,
Yes,
right?
the Kwama,
Yeah.
soothing Kwama singer.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah. So that's all I got. That's the only thing I remember from my whole career.
That's pretty amazing.
Perfect.
Yeah. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Wow,
Yeah,
excellent.
no problem.
Thank you for preparing. That's wonderful. And it's been a real
I
privilege.
said earlier, we're over preparers.
We dig it. We dig it. So, Becky
Yeah.
Ichnoski, we really appreciate your time with us today. Thank you so much for being part of ESO 10 Fest. Here's to the next 10 years.
Yay, yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
This was so much fun.
Man,
How great was
she's-
Becky?
yeah,
How
Bria
great.
Tog, she's so sweet, right? She's just so lovely. And of course, incredibly good at her job because, she's been doing it for a very long time. And yeah. No, and I thought it was live. Well, all of the other interviews were live. It was just obviously this one for a Sunday. Yeah. But we're really grateful that she did make time for us to do a little pre-recorded interview. And it gave us the opportunity to do a bit of editing. And of course, the sound files that we got at the end, we wouldn't have